Hi Mary, it's Rebecca with your Assignment 1 critique. You had some really great concepts here. I love that you got really personal with this and you wanted to celebrate your heritage and your love for reading, and you found these photos that your dad took, and I just think that that is fantastic. Great start for this assignment. I do know that, like you said, they didn't necessarily have the best exposure, so it was a little hard to work with and pull in some detail out, so we'll talk about that right now. In this first image, I love the hand coloring that you attempted. Her hair looks great. I love it. I think it was a really nice addition to warming up the photo. I think that the contrast could be bumped up a little bit more. I don't see any true rich blacks in there, and I don't see any true bright white highlights. So if you're able to bring those out, this image is going to seem a lot more three-dimensional. And you could keep the hand coloring. That's not going to affect the contrast at all. It may actually be a little more prominent too once you get some more detail in your, once you emphasize your shadows and your highlights a little bit more. I do like how you treated the horse down here. I feel like it's not too contrasty, and with red it had the opportunity to be really punchy and just completely steal the scene, and you didn't let that happen. You let it be a little bit muted to kind of blend in a little bit more with the background, and I think that that was a great solution to that. Right now the horse looks a little bit pasted on the image, and it's because there's no shadow to ground it onto this horse. So if you wanted to add a shadow, there's a tutorial, I think it was this week, that you got to see about adding realistic shadows. You can also go in with a paintbrush, but I would make a new layer specifically for the shadow, paint on that, and then reduce the opacity a little bit so that you could still see, because shadows aren't usually completely black. You see a little bit of detail, within the shadow. Like over here, you can see the pages of the book. So notice where your light source is coming from in this image. Looks like it's coming from up here, pretty much straight above. And then you can play with a little shadow under the horse if you want to. It also looks a little bit like, let me see if I can zoom in a little bit here. There's a little bit of white kind of outlining this horse along this edge here, under the foot, under the belly, and across the back. And whenever you have a white line like that, it's instantly going to appear like it's been cut out. So if you can shave that off a little bit, then that will help ground the horse into the scene a little bit better as well. So I love the composition in this image too. I'm not sure if this was originally how it was composed, but it's great. I love this image. It was a really good choice for this assignment. So in this assignment of you kind of embracing the librarian and celebrating your love for reading, I understand that that original image of you was poorly exposed, and comparing the original with this image, you were able to pull out some nice detail in your shirt and in your hair here, so I think that you did a great job there. I also love the sepia tone effect of that, and I don't know if you would be able to pull out any more dark blacks in there, because it was a hard image to work with. I am a little confused as to why you cranked up the contrast so high on the librarian, because she's so stark compared to you in the original image. You in the background, and she does have a lot of detail within her in the original image. So I'm not quite understanding the relationship there. Also, just to let you know, in images, the viewer's eyes are automatically drawn to the whitest area of the image first, and then the second thing they're drawn to is whatever's the sharpest or most in focus. So the librarian is just stealing the show here because she's so bright. I do like the blue tone to her. I see where you were going there, but I just think that she could use a lot more detail in her shirt and her face and her hair, because it's such a contrast from what's going on back here. The other thing is the legacy of learning. I feel like there could have been a better solution for that font. I think the font is just, it's not quite, It's not quite large enough to make an impact on the image. It's a little small, so it feels like an afterthought. So I recommend enlarging it. Maybe, you know, choosing a different font. You don't have to necessarily, and I don't want you to choose anything too wild, you know. I don't think it needs to go that route, but maybe something in a script might be nice for this kind of like a memory or story, or like for this narrative that you're trying to tell. I also don't think it's necessary to have that oval around it. I think if you place it strategically enough within the image that it doesn't need anything separating it from the background. The other thing is there's a scale difference between you and the librarian, and so your idea of embracing her, it more seems to me like you had kind of mentioned she's reading and possibly thinking of you while she's reading, and that makes sense in this context. But as far as you kind of embracing her, I feel like the scale needs to be a little bit closer. Like she needs to be much larger, so that it seems a little more believable in that way. But other than that, I love your creative concepts. I love the personal aspect that you're bringing to these. I love how hard you worked and how your dedication and how much you experimented. I think you did a fantastic job with all of that. So keep up the great work.